Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, wherever you are. My name is Gregory Skinner. I'm a VP at Escalent. I'll tell you a little bit more in a second. But this morning, I'm here to talk to you about the idea of reciprocity as it relates to relationships and as an antidote to what's going on in the marketplace, in the commercial vehicle marketplace. So the title of the presentation is Reciprocity in Relationships, an Antidote to Market Upheaval. And I'm excited to go through this because it's, I should say, a little prescriptive, based on all the sorts of things that I do on a day-to-day basis, things that I hear, people I encounter. We've come up with some ideas on how to help propel your businesses in addition to understand what's going on in the marketplace a little bit more efficiently and effectively. So just a little bit about myself. Escalent is a global advisory and analytics company. We work in all sorts of different verticals, all sorts of different sectors. The automotive sector being one of our primary business units. I worked there for quite a while, mostly in passenger car, but most recently transitioned into commercial vehicles. And on the qualitative side. So I'll hold hands with the quant people, the analytics people, but my job really is to get real world answers. So the people in the field, the people making the vehicles, the people upfitting, those are the people who I encounter and deal with on a day-to-day basis. And it's important because as important as quantitative data is and analytics are, at some point you have to get down to brass tacks. The rubber has to hit the road. All of those sorts of ideas and notions that we throw out there about what's really happening. Let's put a face to this. That's the part of the business that I work on. When we talk about this idea of reciprocity, I have to admit, when I was first introduced to the subject, when they said, "Hey, you're going to talk about reciprocity," it threw me for a bit of a loop. I went, "Man, how's this going to work in the context of commercial vehicles?" It's not an easy subject to understand, and it's not an easy subject to deal with, because really, when it comes to business, the idea of giving and expecting something in return isn't really pervasive. Companies really aren't in the marketplace to give away any of the advantages that they have right now and sort of hope for the best. So it's one thing if you're talking about person to person, this idea of giving and expecting back, but business, that's something completely different. Now, the reason that this is important, the reason that this idea of reciprocity, or I will say collaboration, and we'll talk about that in a second. The reason this is important is because this marketplace, as you're all well aware, is in the midst of heavy consolidation. It's happening at a pretty rampant pace. Companies are being bought and sold. Big companies are swallowing up small companies, by the hundreds, if not thousands, looking for a marketplace share and advantage. Owners want efficiencies and cost reductions. There's huge amount of investment right now. So this idea of upheaval is a very real thing. And I haven't even started to talk about regulations, technology, new startups. There's a lot going on right now. So it sort of begs the question, when it comes to big business, that's one thing. It's when you get the Swifts of the world or the Amazons of the world, acquiring companies, that's one thing. What are we going to do with small business and medium-sized business and those who are maybe a little bit larger but are still facing some heat? What are they supposed to do? Or what are you supposed to do? So when we think about reciprocity, really the best way to sort of manage this idea is to break it out into sort of two distinct notions. The first one is this idea of collaboration. So we're going to work together. We're going to leverage our synergies. We're going to take advantage of our strengths and work together to build something bigger and better, or protect ourselves, or whatever it might be. The second thing is this idea of a way of building trust. Now, if we take those and we sort of apply them, then the most effective way to do this is when we talk about B2B, then we're really talking about collaboration. When we talk about B2C, in that case, we're really talking about reciprocity. All right, so let's start talking about B2B. So really what we're talking about here is this idea of working jointly with others or together to do things like foster innovation, to build relationships, to capture information, if not useful information, then maybe vital information, to explore opportunities. You're holding hands to, again, sort of build something bigger and better. There are lots of examples that I have. I'm going to share a couple of them here with you today. And they're interesting. The first one is this idea of, it's not even an idea. I was talking to this charter company. It's a bus charter company. They're out of Texas. There's actually two of them that I was speaking to. It was for a completely, it's for a project where I was just trying to understand what's going on in their marketplace. How are they managing technologies, all that sort of thing. And we started talking, and I talked to the guy and I say, hey man, what happens, when something happens to one of your buses? Like, what happens when something goes down? And he goes, oh, well, if we get overtasked or, we have a mechanical or something like that, then we just call up the other bus company that's down the road and they lend us one of their buses. And my mind melted. I was like, what? Like, wait, you guys are sharing equipment? He's like, yeah. He goes, we do it all the time. We talk to each other about what's going on in the marketplace. We share equipment. We kind of know each other's schedules and what's going on, because they were in a pretty small town. And I was like, why on earth would you do that? And he said, well, we're way better helping each other out than we are trying to drive each other out of business. There's enough business for us to both sort of flourish. And if we hold hands and we work together, then it's actually better than if I try and drive him out of business or he tries to drive me out of business. That to me blew my mind. Like, I couldn't believe that that's something that they were doing, because it just seems so atypical. And it kind of is. And don't get me wrong, I know that companies talk to each other and share stuff all the time, but not to that degree. And it sort of begs the question, when's the last time that you as an individual or your company reached out to a competitor or a peer and said, hey, what can we do to help each other grow? Can you imagine if you sat down and explored that as a notion? Like, what could you do together to help each other grow? Knowing that nobody has an infinite number of strengths, nobody has an infinite number of weaknesses, but if you sort of complement each other, then maybe you can take more of that market share. It's an idea that seems sort of foreign, especially in the US in this particular market, but it's definitely something that's worth exploring. Another example that I have, this one didn't happen so far away. It was pretty recent. I was talking to a guy, he's a co-owner. They had just started, I think he said his company was 3 years old, 2 or 3 years old. He has 10 Class 8s and they're growing. They're growing pretty aggressively. And they haul fabricated products. So fabricated steel, fabricated concrete, but they do it over the road. So they're not limited to one state. They're state to state. And he told me that he was warned to stay away from a certain brand of truck because they had issues, like engine issues, maintenance issues, quality issues. And I was like, okay, well, yeah, that happens all the time, but what's going on? He goes, who'd you hear this from? He goes, I've heard it from other fleet managers. I've heard it from techs. I've heard it from drivers. And I go, okay, well, tell me a little bit about the company, who's making these trucks. And he goes, I don't know anything about this company. The information that he received was enough that he did basically no exploration of that company and their products, because that reputation that they held around that specific product basically steered him away. So he didn't know anything about them. The point is, business managers, transportation managers, fleet managers, everybody's talking to each other. And this is important because this also extends into the dealer space. And I know there's a lot of dealers listening today, and that's why I'm bringing it up, is because they know what dealers are good. They know what dealers have issues. They know what specifically their strengths and weaknesses are. You know, another example is talking to a fleet manager in Nebraska, and he was talking about how they have this dealer in his town, his small city, and they have a bad rep, and everybody knows to avoid that dealer. That's the level of communication and sort of things that are happening in the background, and that's the sort of impact that it can have. So just know that these companies are collaborating and sort of communicating with each other in the background, and it actually has an effect on your business. We'll talk a little bit more about how to remediate some of this, as we go through the presentation. But that's really important, to know that you're not sort of operating in a vacuum and that everything's transactional. It's like, no, you're really sort of focused on cultivating these relationships and building great reputations, because that's really going to carry you far going into the future. The third example I have is this one about large fleets. So larger fleets, we're kind of talking 50 plus. They often deal directly with OEMs. They'll provide them specs and give them updates on vehicle performance, usage. They'll even test new parts. I've talked to more than a few companies who work with the OEM. They'll test out parts. They'll come up with new specs for things that they need, and they'll actually help develop the truck, or in some cases, trailers, all that sort of thing. The important thing here is that without talking to those people, there's no collaboration. So the sentiment is, without conversation, there's no collaboration. When you have two people talking about the same thing, that's where you should really start to grow the audience. And really, this is important because when it comes to truck equipment manufacturers, whoever they might be, so it might be body, it might be chassis, it might be upfit, all of those manufacturers welcome the opportunity to collaborate with companies, big and small. Why? Because there's absolutely nothing better than information that comes directly from the field or from end users. And really, at the end of the day, that's what my business is. That's what it is that I do, is share the sort of findings and insights about what's going on in the field with these companies so that they can build a better product. So if you start to collaborate with them, whether you're a dealer or manufacturer, even consultants, to help them build better product, they love that sort of thing, because it's really difficult to get marketplace information that's accurate and that really helps someone who uses product in the real world. All right, so that's B2B. But when we start to talk about B2C, now we're talking about this idea of reciprocity. And B2C is really a different animal than B2B, primarily because the goals are different, the objectives are different. It's a fundamentally different space. So if we operate under the premise that any truck is simply a piece of equipment that's there to do a job, then the more it's working, the better. We all sort of know that. But businesses are looking for vendors who are there to support them. They want the relationship. They're not really so interested in the transaction. As much as it comes down to transaction day to day, they want to know that a vendor, a supplier, a dealer is there with them, like they're partners. So where does reciprocity fit into this? Well, on the B2C side of the fence, reciprocity has a lot more to do with giving. It's about delivering these like small things that help build and strengthen relationships. So, and let me talk a little bit about the psychology behind it. So psychology is pretty simple, and it's basically that if you do an unexpected gesture, even a small one, they can have a huge, like surprisingly positive impact. And the reason this happens is because it creates a sense of gratitude, and it encourages this reciprocation. And that reciprocation might happen as let's say additional business or trust, or they might even be more loyal to you just because you do these small things. The second thing is that recognizing and expressing a genuine appreciation for someone's effort establishes a positive atmosphere. So someone, you're a dealer, you do something small, and guess what? people feel valued. People feel that they feel heard. They feel that, you're helping them. All of this helps to build and strengthen the relationship, which is, of course, what it is that you're after. A couple of examples in the B2B, B2C space about going above and beyond. The first one is that when it comes to customers, all the ones that I talk to, all the end users that I talk to, the thing that they sort of fear the most is twofold. The first is that they're going to have lengthy wait times when they bring a truck in for service. And the second thing is that they work really hard to trust the dealer, whether it be a dealer or whether it be a third-party service maintenance company, whoever it might be. They work hard to trust them, but there's really this sort of underlying lack of trust. The challenge is that, when we talk about it in big terms, people say, hey, man, if the truck's not moving, then it's not making money, which is very true. But there's way more to that. So spend a lot of time on this end sort of digging into this. The issue isn't so much that the truck's not moving and it's not making money. The issue is that clients or end users cannot plan effectively. They don't know what's going on. So they've got guys there that are sitting idle. They don't know if they should rent a truck to sort of backfill trucks that are in the shop. They have clients on the other end who are missing deliveries. And then all of a sudden it's got this knock-on effect on their business reputation. Or, they might get charged, or a delivery might get refused because it's not on time. Anyways, the issue isn't always the time. The issue is they are sitting there with their hands up going, what am I supposed to do? So it's important that, when it comes to sort of reaching out to them, that we go above and beyond and make sure that they're incredibly well informed. And, it's funny because you talk to them and they say, how would you feel if, a dealer or your mechanic or whatever called you back and said, hey, we have a parts issue. It's not going to be here for another week and a half. Your truck's going to have to sit here. You know what the answer was? It was, I'm way more willing to forgive them and give them credit for telling me the truth and helping me be able to plan my business than I am if I call them and they tell me they don't know what's going on or that the truck has to wait longer. They're incredibly forgiving and incredibly flexible, but they just want to know. Another example of going above and beyond is that 9 times out of 10, if you're doing something for a customer that bends the rules or goes outside of negotiated terms, but helps them, then the benefit and the outcome is exponentially more positive. The example here is talking to guys. He's telling me that he's got this small parts issue. One of the trucks, something keeps falling off the truck, but he's got 50 trucks. And so they have to rotate in all the trucks and do the fix and then rotate them out. And the dealer is doing all the service on them. Doesn't know when the part's going to be there, and it's a pain in the butt to figure out which trucks have been fixed and which trucks need to be fixed and so on and so forth. What's the dealer do? The dealer calls him and says, hey, give me all the bins for all your trucks and let me keep track of what you bring in, and we'll work together to make sure that everything gets corrected. Well, this fleet manager I'm talking to, he's sort of over the moon about this. He's like, I did not expect that. It seems like a little thing, but the fact that someone is going, taking that sort of level of effort to make sure that my life is easier, we're keeping track of everything. It's such a small deal, but to him, it was enough for him to say, I love that dealer. Like, that guy is totally on my side and he's really working to help make my life easier. It's incredible. A third one, something as simple as making sure that the parts are available prior to service appointments, speeds up turnaround time. It reduces frustration, reduces downtime. But when I talk to a dealer, they'll say, we don't really think about that so much, and in fact, it's better if the truck's in the shop than it is me risking that guy take his truck elsewhere. But the thing is, fleet managers hate having their truck sitting there. They feel like they're being held captive, and they would rather someone tell them to keep it in their yard than bring it and leave it at a shop and have it sit in their yard. Why? Because they feel like they've lost all control if the truck's not in their possession. The thing is, thinking about this as a pathway to a stronger relationship. And we all know that in the commercial vehicle space, if you're candid and upfront with someone, then it garners a lot of respect. And that little thing, like that little bit of honesty, really is what builds that strength. So again, it seems like a little thing. And in fact, a lot of the things I talk about are little things, but they make a huge difference. I want to talk about this idea of, I just said it, little things. This one was a great one. Again, I'm talking to a fleet manager. He's in distribution. So they've got, I think they had 40, 45 trucks, something like that. A lot of box trucks, doing a lot of P&D, doing a lot of local delivery. And so he's talking to the accounting team and they go, we want to save some money. So we're going to change service and maintenance providers. We're going to swap from one dealer to another dealer because these guys are presented to us and they say that they can save us a ton of cash. His response to them was, hold on, I deal with these guys at a face-to-face level. You guys deal with them at an admin level. And there are lots of things that happen at my level that you don't know. They're doing things for me that you're not aware of that, again, sort of make this operation work more efficiently. They'll fast track my truck for me. They'll do service and maintenance repairs that are not on the manifest, and they'll do them for free, and they'll do them quickly. So as much as this other company says, or this other dealership says that they can go and save us all sorts of money, these guys who I'm working with right now are doing stuff that we don't even request that make our business work incredibly well. The point here is that those fleet managers, they work both up the organization, up to the ownership or, the board level, and they work all the way down to the service and maintenance level. And they've got a ton of influence. So keeping them happy with little things is what really keeps you in the ball game. Little things are really about making someone's day easier. They don't go unnoticed at the customer level. This one manager, he tells me, he goes, if I have something that needs to be done, I've got a maintenance company, and they'll come and they'll do everything on site. When I talk to my other vendors, they say, hey, I got to take it back to the shop. And for me, that means I have to spend my time and go get this done. And it's a pain. Something as small as being able to do service and maintenance on site, again, sort of doing things that they don't ask for, trying to come up with solutions for them is what makes them really happy. It's what makes them go, regardless of what happens, I'm going to stick with these guys because they're working with us. They're not working for us. They're working with us. Customers hope that dealerships recognize the loyalty that they've shown, and showing them that they're appreciated beyond a transaction is super important. Loyalty programs leave them feeling like they're part of something. It makes them feel like there's more to it than them just paying a bill. And unexpected perks have all sorts of value, not because they're getting perks. They have value because they reduce the burden. Like, that's the key to a loyalty program. And it's so funny because, again, I work with tons and tons of OEMs, and the thing about loyalty programs, and not just OEMs, even like parts providers, all that sort of thing, is they go, yeah, we're going to hit them up with, they buy 4 and they get the 5th one free, or they come in for this many services and they get another service. That's not the key. As soon as you do a loyalty program where you're talking about money off or a volume of things, then all of a sudden you're commoditizing the benefit. There's no difference for you doing 4 and get one, 5, one free than someone else. But as soon as you do something that's really special for them, like fast tracking, service, or giving them an exclusive deal, or hitting them up with like custom communications for things that that they want, then all of a sudden it stops being a commodity and starts being a commitment. So when you think about loyalty and recognition, it should be more about special perks, like things that are unique to them and recognizing them as unique companies. Those are things that make a difference to them. This last one is this idea of consistency. So being really consistent with the people that you deal with. Again, just talk to enough managers, transportation managers, operation managers to know they don't like new guys, which is sort of funny to say, but it's not that they don't like the guy. They hate this idea of, I have to spend my time to get the new guy up to speed. I want someone who knows my business, who can anticipate my needs, who's sort of there for me. That alone is worth me sticking with them. As soon as I have to spend time away from my job and the things that I need to do on a day-to-day basis, then all of a sudden, it's burdensome. All right, just really quickly, because I know we only got a couple minutes left, just want to wrap up with this idea of proactively communicating. Now, we've talked earlier about people wanting to know the status of something. When we look at how this can live, it can be something as simple as a dealer rep reaching out. So, things like sending video updates. What's going on with the truck? I have this guy saying they send you video updates, so it's not like, hey man, what's going on with my truck? What's going on? He goes, he loves the fact that they sent every single time the mechanic goes in and does something, they send him a video update and they update the notes online so that he can go and log in. He says that's super nice. That's exactly what we were talking about before, right? It helps a manager be able to plan. It helps them know what to do next. It helps them know what's going on with their truck so that they don't feel like I don't know what the solution is. And they can make effective business decisions, which is really all that they want to do. The second thing is having that rep who reaches out to them. If you have a relationship with your rep and they're trying to get a hold of you without you having to reach out to them, they feel like, again, it's a partnership. I'm not sitting here trying to figure out how am I going to get a hold of this guy, and we need stuff right now. So again, just to sort of wrap up, the key to this idea of reciprocity and collaboration sort of boils down to 4 things. The first thing is, and you've heard it, a lot of this is about communicating, letting them know what's happening, keeping them up to speed, helping them make effective business decisions. The second thing is the little things. I talked about a few examples. They don't seem like much, but little things here and there have way more value because they're special and they're different than the sort of big things. Don't get me wrong, they want big things too, but the little things are the things where they remember, hey, my dealer or my rep did this for me when I didn't ask, and that keeps me on board. The third thing is being proactive. So reaching out to them before they're calling you just to see what they need and help them out. And then the last thing is empathy. So putting yourself in their shoes so that you feel like, or they feel like and understand their business. And at the end of the day, that makes their life a whole lot easier. If you have any more questions or there's anything else you want to know, I've got tons of examples, I got tons of experience, and more than happy to answer any questions you might have, free of charge, of course. Just let me know, and we'll see what we can do for you.